Welcome to the next episode of Culinary Chronicles Made with Love. I have an old colleague, friend on the show today, and she's doing something fascinating in the UK, which hopefully comes to Canada soon. But I wanted to welcome to the show Lauren Scott Harris. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so I wanted to dive right in because we had a little pre-chat and we were going through all of this amazing stuff. But tell me a little bit about your life and your work and kind of who you are.
Sure thing. And please stop me if I'm going on too long. I worked in the wonderful world of PR, which I think I was drawn to because I thought human behavior is fascinating. As I worked with lots of different clients, there was a moment when two very different things were going on. One, I was working with this incredible company called Headspace that were all about teaching the world to meditate, but they were teaching you via your phone. It was all kind of, there was lots of messaging about stress, depression, all of these things. And basically, the argument constantly was we all need self-esteem. If you have self-esteem, then everything else is going to fall into place. At the same time, influencer culture kicked off, and I was representing all these amazing clients in hotels who were just being bombarded with increasingly curt requests from people with lots of followers, who I'm sure were lovely, but are suddenly expecting absolutely everything for free. And these two things were pulling in completely different directions. And it seemed that something could operate perhaps in the middle. And so I came up with the idea of Ernd while looking at people standing in the queue for Nike Town and thinking, what a waste of time. I mean, I hate queuing anyway, but what a waste of time. And thinking, what if you said to those, 300 young people in the queue that they didn't have to queue, but they just had to come and do a beach cleanup. And if they did the beach cleanup, then they would get access to this limited edition pair of sneakers, and none would be sent to influencers, none would be gifted, so that when they wore them, it would stand for the fact that they'd done something other than just try and get what they want.
That's genius. How did you come up with that? Was it just like, were you in the shower? Were you just like...
I don't know when that actually... it was 10 years ago. I remember that. I remember two ideas happening at the same time and thinking that the other one was much stronger. But I wrote them down. And then it was one of those things that just kept waking me up at night. Particularly then when I had my son, who's now 6.5, he's called Gray. But just thinking... sitting there in this PR agency and just seeing the brands basically capitulate this really bad behavior and reward it. So we'd say sometimes, you know what, we're not sure about working with her. She's a little tricky. She doesn't quite do what she says. Or, last time we sent her to a hotel, she made the staff cry or something. And they go, oh, do you know what, but she's got a lot of followers. We don't want to annoy her. And I was like, no, wait, this is not the world that this is silly. Like, people are bullying their way into getting free stuff. And even then when they get free stuff, they're not happy. Like, let's try it out. It's a different system. Let's earn it, feel good about it, and then enjoy it. So that was that. I'm based in London. I lived in New York for 5 years, which I loved. Absolutely loved. And as you know, I don't know if Canadian holiday is the same as American holiday. But with 10 days holiday, you don't really get to leave the city much. So I think I was there honestly for 5 years. And then one day I wanted to come home. I still love New York. I feel like every year that passes, I know fewer and fewer people. And I certainly don't think I even know any restaurants anymore. But that's how we kind of got to here. No.
Amazing. What did you do in New York?
So I started, actually where we were. I started with Freud New York. Freud New York merged with another agency over there. The agency they merged with, it was very funny. They were very fashion focused, and I have never been very fashion focused. And I made the brilliant mistake of walking in flat shoes on the first day because none of us were interviewed. We all just got transferred. Yes, and I got yelled at pretty comprehensively, but I actually found it slightly entertaining. It was just everything was just so dramatic. And bizarrely, the founder also found me finding it quite entertaining. He was like, no, when I shout, you're meant to jump. Why didn't you jump? And I said, I just cannot believe that much noise is being made about heels. And he was like, right, what can you do that's not fashion? What are you good at? So I ended up opening a travel arm for this agency, which was great fun. And I loved it. But then ended up setting up what the agency was called Scott Ideas a couple of years after that, based over there.
Okay, I have to correct you there because I think you're very fashionable from what I recall. You're very understated, simple, classic fashion, like clean beauty. So I remember that, just like you being very calm and just very like, what's the brand? Very like linen and very casual, cool. So I think you're very fashionable. You're not like high heels, kind of like
No.
glam it up, fake boobs fashion. This is like Lauren Scott fashion, just very chill. And I have to say, I think they were like, oh, maybe there's a different type of fashion in the world, not colors and, crazy styles. So that's amazing. And then I think you should tell people about Freud, because we both worked at Freud, which I thought was crazy, a crazy place to work. The people that worked there, the people, their families, where they came from. I think it was such a fascinating thing for me. And I found it entertaining because there was a bit of drama. I mean, 20 years ago, but I was like just laughing, going, oh my gosh, is this real life? This is so funny.
Well, I am so, it's a weird word to use that, I suppose, but I'm still so interested in it. Like, I think, and I don't mean like I follow them on social media and I care what clients they have. I mean, I think it's the University of PR, because I think that Matthew and the team he's built and, his entire family are kind of expert psychologists. And that's what really interested me about PR, was like, how do you influence human behavior? When we were working on, when I was there, we were working on things like Pizza Hut and Lynx deodorant. Lynx deodorant is sort of, it's certainly not the most glamorous thing you're ever going to be talking about. But with the right PR, they could get young guys like clamoring for the new scent, which inevitably was, pretty unpleasant, but
yes, pretty strong.
Kind of, pretty strong. But I found it absolutely amazing and really the most incredible way to learn all of these kind of behavioral sciences. And one thing that I love from my time there, one is that I still, I don't know if this is the definition of trauma bonding, but I still have a lot of great friendship from there. But also, when I was very, very junior there, we worked on Red. Were you there for Red?
I was there for Red, yeah. That was crazy.
And Red was run by a very cool man called Seb Bishop, who at the time,
yes,
I had no interaction with whatsoever, because I would have been a sort of junior account exec or something. But I remember Red being this huge deal. Anyway, Seb is now chairman of Ernd. And I have we do not know each other from that time. We were linked by someone later on and then made the connection. But the thought for me that as a really, really junior member of staff at Freud, I would have stood back as he walked along the corridor, because he was so fantastic. And just, it was the coolest account. Everyone wanted to work on it. So if I could tell much younger Lauren, the guy that you're kind of shuffling out the way for in the corridor, or trying to make a tea for or something for a meeting, will be your chairman one day. I would have been thrilled. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I remember working on Red and the American clients saying, what is Wimbledon? Because we turned Wimbledon red.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that? And I remember sitting on the call being like, I don't know how these people make it to the senior. Maybe we were in the same meeting. And we had a very funny nickname for Pizza Hut. I don't know if you remember that, but I don't think we should say that. Oh my gosh, I love it. That's so exciting. Oh my gosh. Okay, so tell us about Ernd a little bit more. Let's go back to Ernd, because this is why I'm fascinated. I haven't spoken to you in, years. And then somehow I think I saw your stuff on LinkedIn and I realized that I thought you were such a great soul when we did work together. We were probably in our 20s. I mean, we both know how old we are now, but we both have 5 and 6 year olds. So we're a little bit older. But tell us about Ernd. Like, how does it work? How did you create the partnerships? Some of them are with amazing, organizations and businesses. And how did you create what the needs are?
Sure. So, well, first of all, it's very early. So we're still learning a lot as we go. But the insight was kind of what I was saying about this sort of theoretical Nike idea, which was there is tons of energy that can be put to better use. And the way that we started it, so we were looking for a little pilot to do. And my son's school, which is very, very sweet state school, which in the UK means a free school, one that's not being paid for. Anyway, they needed the playground fixed. They needed about £3,000 to do it, or it was going to take, their groundsman the whole summer. They couldn't get the parents to do it. The parents are exhausted. Of course, the teachers don't want to do it. It was a big piece of work. So we said, can we take that problem off your hands? We'll get it done for £250. So like, no, you won't, but whatever. Go, have at it.
They're like, this mother's crazy. She needs to.
They were like, fine. So right next door to the school is this gorgeous, very, very traditional English pub. And we spoke to the landlord and we said, will you help us? Here's the idea. Why don't we buy, with the £250, silver tankards? You know, it's like a silver mug that they used to serve beer in. So we bought one tankard and put a photo of it on a poster in the pub. And it said, if you want your own tankard kept behind the bar at this pub with your name engraved on it, and we'll give you your first pint on the house in August. It's all yours, but you have to come fix the playground. So suddenly, 45 volunteers sign up immediately.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. And that's so smart.
Well, what was really fun was we knew the school would obviously be pleased. We got the job done. We knew that the people volunteering would enjoy it because we're British and we don't speak to each other, even if we see each other 100 times at the same pub. You know? So there was a little bit of like social connection going on. So we knew that people would enjoy it. But what we didn't realize is people felt so kind of buoyed and happy to have their tankard at their local kept behind the bar that they would invite their friends to the pub so that they could show off a bit. And then the pub did better business. So for the sake of 250 quid, the pub does better, the cause got it done, and the consumer had a great time. So it's always, that was our first little triangle, which was so perfect. I don't think it'll ever be that perfect again, but that's always our goal, is to create these triangles between what does the cause want and need, what does the consumer want, and how can the brand, get all those things together. So we talk to schools, we talk to hospitals, we talk to anything that needs volunteering, and that can be environmental, it can be cooking for lonely older people, it can be painting the schools, it can be, we're not quite there yet, but soon you'll be able to pick from a menu of whatever it is that keeps you up at night. Be that there are children who are not eating enough, or that in London there are not enough green spaces, or that the waterways are clogged. Like whatever it is, you'll be able to do something to help. That too is fantastic for our own mental health, because I found that I was not alone in sort of waking up with this daily existential crisis of why bother. I'm sitting there with my son trying to get him to do his spellings, and any parent will know the pain of doing that. And then, simultaneously opening the paper and it says in 5 years there'll be no jobs because AI will have taken over all of it, and just thinking, why are we bothering? Why am I washing out my tomato cans when flights are taking off empty during COVID to keep their flight slots? It just all can seem a bit futile. But actually the very process of doing something for 2 hours a week, and for us, like part of what we want to do is just make it really easy for people to find stuff to do. Whether or not they want to take the brand thank you at the end is completely up to them. But what I hadn't realized till we started doing this is, I think we're all feeling a little bit sort of choked in that we don't know how to help, or when you try, it's just so hard. Like we're all doing commutes, we're all working, we've all, some of us have children, we have pets, all these different responsibilities, but maybe we read the paper and we see that there's this awful food poverty, and you think, right, I'm going to go to a food bank, I'm going to help, I want to do something. But then when you try and take that action, of course, the people running the food bank are not sitting waiting for the phone to ring. They're doing all the work. So you have to call 5 times. By the time you've called for the 5th time, you're kind of losing enthusiasm. It's really hard. And then they call back and they go, oh, yeah, we've got a slot for you at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. And you're like, no, I can't
make it. Yeah.
I can't make it. And I want to help so much, but I feel like I'm being thwarted somehow. So we want to make it really easy to find the stuff to do. We want to make it cool. We want to make it fun. Like it's a great way to meet people. We have people coming because they're actually secretly looking for dates. And they often find dates because it's just...
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a great way to meet people that have the same kind of likes and interests, and that, are single and want to meet and mingle, because where do you meet over 40 if you're single? Like you don't...
Exactly. And standing in a bar, what's someone saying? Have you lived in London long, or what would you like to drink? But actually when you're doing, you're painting a school or something, and it's like, can you pass me the paint a bit quicker, please? And, where's the hammer gone or something? And it's actually it's just giving you all these springboards to talk to people. And we often see people that, look, at the beginning are going, oh God, I don't know anyone, and feeling lonely, really come out of their shell or make friends while doing it. So yeah, hopefully lots of benefits, and hopefully lots of little things that we can do. It's not... it's not perfect and it's not meant to be. If you talk to real passionately environmentally focused people, they say, look, well, yeah, but you're still telling people that they can buy trainers. We shouldn't be buying trainers. And our point is, well, got it. But for now, people are going to buy trainers. So how can we do it in a more thoughtful way? How can we use like this wasted energy to make things a bit better? And so it's a stepping stone. Like for now, you might have to do 2 hours to earn your unlock, but maybe in 5 years, you have to do 10 hours. Maybe it's more, I don't know. But we have to get people into the system first and check it out, see how it feels.
Yeah, because it's kind of like the circular economy. Like you are going to still buy those trainers. So while you're doing that, why don't you do some good before you get to that spot? But everyone's going to have a naysaying, poo-poo your idea, but that's not for you to worry about. So how's the business model? Because I was asking about philanthropy versus profit making. And I know this is interesting because you were saying there's a lack of, there's lots of breaks when there's government funding in projects.
Yeah, so it's a tiny bit difficult to describe the business model without sort of slightly boring you to tears because it's quite detailed. But the major points are, so one, we looked at some amazing organizations that have existed and then vanished because they ran out of grants. So for example, there was a huge leaf identification project that went on in the States. And for 7 years, people are just funneling in data and tracking where there's ash dieback, all these citizen scientists, amazing. And then 1 year they didn't get their funding, which meant they didn't update the app, which meant that all the data on the app was useless, which meant it just vanished. So what we didn't want to do was get into this situation where, for example, Nike were going, yeah, this is a good idea. You can have 5,000 pairs of trainers. I don't want to talk to your CSR person. I want to talk to your marketing person because this is a different form of marketing, but trust me, it's a good one. I want my son to say, Mommy, please take me to the beach cleanup. I really want those sneakers. Because I also know that when we go, and obviously, because it's the UK, it'll be in the rain, we go and do our cleanup, and then we wear them, we will tell people about them. Because we won't be able to resist telling people about them and telling them we did a beach cleanup. Because that's just how we're wired, and that's fine, and it's a nice thing to be proud of. I'd rather, him say that than, I waited outside and I could camp for 3 hours. I mean, great. What a waste of time. So the business model is that the brands are paying us. They're not paying us a huge amount. They're paying a kind of marketing subscription almost. But the fun bit is that what we've worked into it is the causes when they tell us what they need to be done. When we fulfill that, we also pay them. So they get an army of volunteers and they get donations. So that's why they work with us. The brands are paying a pretty nominal fee to be part of the platform, but are also then they're selling their products. So it's another marketing arm for them. And there will in the future be a small fee for the consumer. Because what we've realized as well is every event that we've launched has been like up to 300% oversubscribed. We're getting really fantastic things with brands that people really, really want. And if you had done every single earned activity over the course of the last year and a half, you would have earned goods, products and services to the value of like £1,500. Because there were like design hotels were so generous. They gave everyone a 2-night stay in anywhere in Europe that you could get to by train. And these are beautiful hotels. And then Summerall and Bishop gave everyone a beautiful tablecloth. And it won't always be that the thing that you can earn is for free, but sometimes it will. But people have just been so responsive. When we do our River Cafe one, which is obviously, such a wonderful spot. Everybody thinks it's the best Italian outside of Italy. And reservations are really hard. When we've launched that, we've had over 1,000 people try and get into our litter picks. And the thing that makes me laugh is like, 1, you can litter pick whenever you want. You don't need me to tell you when. 2, you can come litter picking with the River Cafe, or you can go on your own. The litter is the same. It's the same quality.
All over the city. Just pick litter wherever you want.
You can get it wherever you want. But they want to do it with the River Cafe and with the River Cafe community. And that's amazing. But if we can get, I love saying this to Ruthie, who owns River Cafe. I'm like, you literally click your fingers and you get 1,000 people cleaning up rubbish because they want the privilege of eating in your restaurant. Like, imagine if everyone that had that kind of, for want of a better word, like wonderful brand power used it for good. And Nike, you've got whatever 200 million followers on Instagram. What if they said, right, this line, we're going to need 50,000 of you to do tree planting, or shore up these riverbanks because we're worried about them flooding or something. Like, they have such power and people will do it.
I love it. Everyone benefits. I just love this whole idea. Oh, I love it. Congrats. It's so smart.
Oh, thank you.
And I wish it, yeah. I wish, what's that?
I said, hopefully it works.
Well, I'm sure it'll work. I know you have the right team and the right people behind you. So going back to food now, River Cafe. Tell us about the River Cafe, because I've never eaten there. I've only heard good things. What's Ruthie like? How did you meet Ruthie?
Well, the River Cafe is, this is going to make you laugh, and I laugh in it in a slightly Machiavellian way. Like, the River Cafe is so good. It's an Italian restaurant in London, as you know, but people think it's so good that I've seen people fly Ruthie to Rome to cater a wedding. Like, why would you fly someone from London to the middle of Rome to make pasta? It doesn't make sense, but it does.
Wow.
People, because she is, I mean, it is just unbelievable. We met Ruthie through wonderful chairman Seb, who had known her for a few years, but she also, you know, she was so open to it in such a cool way, and she's really one of the coolest women you'd ever meet. But
I love it.
yeah, it's a fantastic restaurant, and it just hasn't changed in whatever 30 years. It hasn't needed to. It's like brilliant.
So how many seats does she have? Because if you have 1,000 people that want a rezo, like, how do you?
We didn't let 1,000 people sign up. We just had on the wait list. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what the seating numbers are, but they're booked all day, every day.
What a business.
And the funny thing, you know, the thing that makes me laugh, which I was joking about with them, is I've never been into a restaurant before and felt so sorry for the staff, because at every table, it's someone's birthday. Like, literally, it's such a special restaurant that everyone in there has a special occasion. So
everyone just comes for every birthday.
Birthday cake after champagne, after birthday cake after champagne.
They just need to record their, like, singing. Like, we're done singing. Oh my gosh. So what's your food like? How did you grow up eating? Because British people have a very different upbringing with food. And I remember guys saying, like, overcooked goose was what was on the Christmas menu every year. And what was food like in your family? Where did you grow up anyway? Did you grow up in Barnes or?
I grew up in the countryside. But I loved thinking about all of these questions. I also, because I love reading as well, Lunch with the FT. I don't know if you know this,
yes.
It's how you get to know someone literally through how they operate in a restaurant, how they treat the staff, what they order, why they order it, do they eat fast or slow? So these questions really, like, reminded me of why I love these, like, getting to know someone through food so much. But my upbringing with food was, when I was thinking about this, the one word that came to mind was huge amounts of generosity. Like, my mother showed her love for her guests and her family by huge amounts of food, a huge variety of food. And I feel almost guilty now, because she still does this, but as someone who's growing up at a totally different time, I cannot bear waste. It absolutely appalls me. I cannot bear fresh food being chucked in the bin, whatever, fresh food that hasn't been eaten being thrown in the bin, or too many leftovers. And for my mother, it was a sign of, you know, just immense generosity to offer people, you know, do you want this, do you want this, do you want this, do you want this, and have huge piles of meat, potatoes and huge piles of everything that she'd been slaving over. And now when I see it, I'm like, oh, it's just a waste. And I don't appreciate that's her way of demonstrating, like,
that's love.
That's
the love.
That's how, exactly. And I'm sitting there going, Mommy, David Attenborough says we can't throw stuff away. Like, please don't throw stuff away. Or don't, like, buy my dad 4 different varieties of yogurts because you don't know which one he wants. Ask him before and don't buy the other 3. So it's a very different way of communicating through food that she had. And I remember, you know, one thing she used to do so brilliantly was Halloween. And we'd always have a Halloween party and our friends would come and she would do, like, the green noodles and the peeled grapes in the bowl, and you put your hand in and close your eyes and she'd say, pick an eyeball, like, all of that stuff. So it was always the centerpiece of the hosting was bringing everybody together with it. Yeah, it was wonderful. She's a phenomenal cook.
Amazing. So what's traditional, like, food growing up in your household? Is it meat and potatoes, or was your mom very forward to have more international flavors?
My dad is very, very healthy. Very, very, I mean, he's nearly 80 and he's still in the gym every day. He looks fantastic, but he's paid very close attention to his diet for the whole of his life. So my mum would always cook, like, Skye, Gingle or Donahay. both Australian, wonderful Australian chefs, but it was quite light. It was never like, there was never stodge, there was never grease, there was never fat. And that's something I really differ from with my mother, and we fall out about it, is she still thinks that margarine is healthy. And I will still absolutely have a heart attack if I see any, like, there's an ingredient on the back of something that I don't understand. I'm not eating it. But, she was very much on the no fat. I think probably on the
my mom's the same.
Like,
there was a good ad campaign for margarine back in the 70s
right.
and 80s, yeah.
Right. And also, if you bought it in the 70s and 80s, it's probably still around. It never
it's still in the fridge too.
It lasts a while.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And what's your food like now? How do you cook for your son? Is he a good eater? Is he very, has a great palate? Does he love restaurants?
It's really fun questions to think through. So he's simultaneously a brilliant eater and a terrible eater. Brilliant because I think he's got a very sophisticated palate. And he will tell, if I give him watermelon that's like even a tiny bit off, which I would not, and I don't mean off, I mean like,
yeah, soft.
It's best. I'm eating it. I don't care. He can't touch it. If something is a little overcooked, he can't touch it. If it's a bad burger, he won't touch it. And so when he was little, it was really pronounced. And he would just like, first day at school, they would say, you can't leave your seat until you eat your lunch. And he's like, watch me, I'll be here for weeks. He's like, I will not be touching this. And they could not do anything to get him to eat. But then go to a friend's house and he'd sort of go, well, Mommy, I'm not sure about these chicken nuggets. And then I'd sort of see like, a bird's eye. It was obviously some cheap chicken nuggets or something, because normally that's what kids love. And I just thought, oh my God, he's such a little food snob.
Love it.
He's very slow to try things. Like, he really has to sit and smell it and think about it. Like, probably once a month does he agree to try something, and he integrates it. But then, he loves sushi. He will be the first to say, Mommy, can we have some salmon and giri? Oh my God, it's so embarrassing.
I love him.
So he's very interesting with food. And I sadly, like with all the demands we all have in our lives, the most I cook in the week is pasta, or something really quick and simple. But, and this is only in the winters, because in the summer we're kind of out and, I don't know, being a bit more active. But on a Sunday in the winter, we wake up and we cook all day. And it's not even that I really want like a chicken casserole or something. It's not the food that's led me there. It's being in the kitchen with him with the radio on and the chopping and do stuff that takes a long time. Like, I love a slow, like low and slow that goes on for hours, and then we kind of eat it later in the afternoon. It's a good excuse, to listen to some music, chat, have a glass of wine, connect. And we have this gorgeous little double window that goes out into the garden. So he's there with the dog, and it's one of my favorite things about winter is that coziness. And then, now he can use a knife or something, and he feels very grown up, and he has his apron, and he loves helping. And so I don't even know if I care what we cook. It's just more that I wanted to take a long time.
Yeah, the experience. It's all about the experience. I love that. Oh, Gray, what a cutie pie. I love it. You'll have to send me a picture of him.
Cutie.
So you said your mom loved those Australian cooks and have cookbooks. Is there anyone that's on your shelf, any British chefs or anyone that you kind of cook from, or is it all kind of from your imagination when you see what's in your fridge?
It's a real mix, actually. And I have shelves and shelves of cookbooks, and bizarrely, I don't think I ever open. If I suddenly get a hankering for something, I just don't.
I think everyone on the podcast says this.
Interested or something. Yeah, exactly. And I don't.
Everyone says this. So funny.
Yeah, it's bizarre because it's such a nice thing going through cookbooks, but no, they sort of look very decorative in the kitchen, and then I just play around with it online. But no, there's no real method to the madness.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I can just start doing a tally of all my guests that say, I love cookbooks, but I never open them or use the recipes. I just flip through the photos. Okay, sounds like me. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Okay. And now, if you could host an elaborate dinner party and be working at Freud, I think there was a lot of kind of famous A-list, B-list, Z-list celebs. And probably throughout your career in New York and, fashionistas and people that wore high heels, who would you invite to this dinner party, and kind of what would you serve, or would you get Ruthie to cater? Let's fly her over to...
No, yeah, exactly. Let's be sustainable. Okay, so if I can choose, if the person catering it is different to the guest list, then 100% it would be Ruthie. Like, there's just nothing better, I think, than her food and the imagination that she puts into it. But if it had to be linked, like, honestly, I would accept a bowl of cereal from Salman Rushdie or a piece of burnt toast from David Attenborough, just to say that.
Oh my gosh! Yes, to David. Yes.
I would just. I mean, if David Attenborough said, "Do you want to come over for a piece of toast and some marmalade?" I think there would be nothing that nothing more fun than that.
Oh my gosh, you have to make that happen.
Oh, wouldn't that be wonderful? He doesn't live too far from here. I wrote to him. He wrote back immediately. He just said, "Well done, keep going." I knew someone that was connected to him, and I said, "I've just got this, like, I just need to write. I just want to see if David Attenborough thinks this is a good idea." Obviously, I wrote him like a 10-page dash and then said, "Would you be up for tea or something?" And he just wrote back, "Dear Lauren, congratulations, keep going. Forgive me for not accepting the invitation for tea." I mean, the poor man, he said about 98. He probably gets 8,000 letters a day.
But he might love a cup of tea because he's 98. He'd be like, "Come over and have a cup of tea."
Yeah, I think he's probably got tea all day long.
Oh my gosh.
I had this brief moment, this is a real tangent, when very sadly, obviously, when Prince Philip died, and I suddenly thought, what if the Queen married David Attenborough and just made him king? I know that's not necessarily a monarchy word, but it was a golden moment. I was like,
that would be perfect.
King David, yes. Everybody I mentioned it to was well behind it. Everybody voted in favour, so...
Yeah. Well, when my girlfriend worked at the Royal, she worked for the palace. She was doing PR for them when we lived there. Wow. She had to call David Attenborough for something. I think there was some kind of art collection, and this was 20 years ago. He still picks up the phone with his number, his like 73842, like his, because that's the way I guess people answer the phone. Yeah. And she was like, "Hello, what?" And then he's like, "David here." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm talking to David Attenborough." Like, that was so cool. Oh, I love that. Okay, cereal with David Attenborough, toast with Salman Rushdie. Okay, I love it. And
yeah.
What's the weirdest food thing you've eaten?
I don't remember anything particular, like really weird, because I actually don't think I would have eaten it. But it'll be in some, am I saying this right? Omakase, because there's this amazing place. If you come to London, I'm going to send you to, called Sushi Atelier. And the chef there is unbelievable. It's a little hole in the wall. And occasionally he'll just send something down to try. And definitely there have been things that I have eaten that I have then not wanted to know what it was that I've eaten, even if it was delicious. So
what's omakase? Is that the menu they just send you, or is that
totally exactly? Okay. That's where they just do whatever they feel like at the house.
Okay.
Which is a fantastic way to be braver and educate your palate and get out of your kind of go-to orders. Yeah, it's definitely a few things that.
Okay. And I haven't been to London. Well, I was there last year, but I haven't been to, all the restaurants that I used to love going to. So what's new and amazing, or what's your favorite, like old and consistent?
So I have great news for you in that the London restaurant scene is just going through the roof. And it almost still feels like we're coming out of COVID. Obviously we're not, but I think people still have that, joy of like, because it was taken away from us for a while. But the new ones, the old ones, you have to go to Reba in Barnes, which is where I live. It's a tiny little Italian, but it was A.A. Gill, very famous food critic.
Yeah, for sure.
Favorite restaurant in the world. He says it is the best, above River Cafe, above everything else. It's, again, tiny little hole in the wall. The couple that own it are the most charming in the world. And I called recently. I said, "Please, can you find me a table? I've got a friend coming in from New York." And he laughed and he went, "If you've got a friend coming in from New York, you should take it to a proper restaurant." I was like, "No."
Oh my gosh, how sweet is that?
Reeve is amazing. Sushi Atelier, which I mentioned, is amazing.
Okay. Where's Sushi Atelier? In Soho?
That is in Fitzrovia, just by Soho.
Okay.
Claridge's relaunched their hotel last night. It got amazing write-ups.
For tea or just for dinner?
No, for dinner.
Oh.
Dinner. It looked amazing. Jackson Boxer, who's an amazing young chef and a good friend, has been opening lots of restaurants recently, but it's just opened one in Selfridges called The Corner, which, again, everybody's going absolutely crazy for. So in New York, when I lived there was this amazing restaurant called the Fat Radish, which was owned by a fellow Brit. He's just moved back to the UK, and he took over a pub in Notting Hill, which, of course, you just think, pub grub can only be so good. You cannot get into this cake for love nor money. They have done the most incredible food, but also incredible programming. So on a Monday night, they host a huge Perudo tournament, and the pub is full because you've got 80 people coming and playing Perudo. And then, forget about trying to get a table for Sunday lunch. It's just not going to happen.
What's it called?
The Pelican.
Okay.
And it
What's
is
Perudo? Oh my gosh, I do not.
Perudo's the Peruvian lying dice game. So you have 6 dice and you roll them and you'll guess what it's like a cult sort of.
Oh my gosh, it hasn't come to Toronto yet, or I haven't heard of it yet. I love it. Oh.
And let me think, what other ones are there?
Is the electric still going?
It's the electric. I mean, Soho House is just Soho House. It's always consistent. I don't think the menu's changed that much probably since the last time you were there, but it's it's fine, good.
Just
yeah, but like there's lots over in East London as well. Over in Clerkenwell. I mean, really, it seems to just be thriving. People seem to be just back into happy booking restaurants months in advance. Yeah. Well, I'll get a longer list together for you when you come.
Okay, when I come. I just love to wander and eat, and that's all I want to do. What else should I ask you?
Oh, wait. If you want to go wandering and eating, have you done Borough Market recently?
No, I was there in October, and I didn't actually make it to that side of the river. But is it? The little restaurants there, but also just the hundreds of food stalls. You don't even have to, don't pick what you want to eat. Just walk around and you'll be handed sample after sample after sample after sample. Okay, I'll make it there on my next visit.
It's amazing. It's so good.
Overall, what are your greatest challenges in running your new business? Because you're still running your existing PR agency, but what are your challenges?
Well, the credit where credit's due. It's actually the agency is being run by the amazing CEO, Emma Harding, and amazing managing director, Amanda Rosenhagen. So they have done a fantastic job of taking all of that on. The biggest challenges for Ernd is just scale, doing it faster, quicker, better, smoother. When we explain the idea to people, those people get really excited. Not many people that go, that doesn't sound very nice. Just trying to help them out. But for that we need money to get the tech together, and for that we need the right business model, and for that we need the right advisors, blah 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 blah. So every little victory, there's been 10 steps towards it or something. But we're getting the pathway's getting clearer and clearer. Before we just used to be able to see one small step in front, and I think now we can see 5 or 6. We know the direction of travel, and I think it took so long to get it to kind of, as I said, from brain to paper, from paper to people, from people to press, to get all of that going. That actually sometimes the discipline for me is totally switching off from it for a day at the weekend, because I dream of it. I talk about it. My friends very sweetly, whenever I'm introduced to anyone now, they go, "Oh, you've got to ask Lauren what she's doing." So I am boring myself occasionally with this kind of obsession, because it is an obsession in the best possible way. But yeah, sometimes just zooming out and putting it to the side for a moment and getting a bit of perspective, because it's all encompassing. And also whatever we want to help everyone and everything, and that's also not.
And does Gray, is he excited? Does he understand it?
Oh, it is, Gray's version of Ernd is one of the biggest joys of my life. And I always say that, when people say why aren't you dating, or your social life seems relatively quiet? And I just say, look, there's not long that you have when you are their best friend, superhero, confidant, chief comedian. And Gray will hear something on the news. And for some reason, homelessness really upsets him. Like, he will cry if he walks past as a homeless person. I have to now have my pockets filled with change because and if not, we have to go home and then we have to get some change to come back. But if he hears something on the radio, he goes, well, Mama, Ernd should help with that. I'm like, well, darling, that's a big flood over in, that was an earthquake in Marrakesh. I don't know if we can do that one. And he's like, Mama, Ernd should help with that. I'm like, okay.
Bless
yes.
him.
So he does think that that it can do everything. And also he refers to it as our business. He goes, how's our business about me? Like, yeah.
I love this too.
But because we did one of the first activations with his school and then his headmistress talked about it in assembly, that was when he was like, okay.
It's our business, yeah.
It's our business.
Well, he's your mini CEO. That's what I call my son. He's a mini CEO.
Yeah, totally.
We were sampling new products yesterday. He's like, Mommy, you said I could have this because, it's our cookie. I'm like, well, you can't have cookies for breakfast, but good try, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks, Lord. Good try. Yeah.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to female entrepreneurs? Because I know that, it's getting easier for females, but it's still harder than males in terms of raising capital, running businesses, getting access to networks and funds. What's your advice for female entrepreneurs?
This one might sound a little left of center, but for me, it's surrounding myself with the right people. And sometimes I need a male advisor to break down a certain door because it's not working when I'm trying it, and they can open the door for me. So having them on the team is really, really important. Sometimes I need a female advisor to give what is, loosely more maternal energy and be like, stop beating yourself up, take it slower, it's okay. And for me, it's just balancing those two things and knowing which bit I need when. But I love being surrounded by both energy, and I don't mean that they come just from that sex necessarily.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of, I think for anyone, the more people you have invested, and I don't mean financially, just kind of in your corner or that understand it a bit, that you can get a bit of perspective to, the better it is. And when I had my first business, I was younger and I didn't want to tell anyone when things were going well because it sounded like boasting, and I didn't want to tell anyone when things were going badly because then they would know things were going badly. And the moment I kind of took the handbrake off that and would share it with people a bit was when I learned so much more. And you say it, or even I'd say to my dad or clients, just they're not going to pay and it's a huge bill and I don't really know what to do. And of course he'd give the fatherly cup around the ear and go, why didn't you bill them quicker or whatever it is? But then he'd say, do you know what has happened to me? Let me tell you what I did. And it's not the solution. It's just more that kind of empathy of, okay, why would you bother trying to climb a mountain alone? Get a guide, get the right equipment, make sure you're doing it in the best possible weather you can, train, get a map, get a route, And I think when I was younger, you just have to kind of figure it out all alone, on your own.
Yeah, that's great advice because it is, my thing is always ask for help because people are always willing to help you. If they're the right people, they will bend over backwards to share and teach you things that they made mistakes from. So yeah, I think that's perfect advice. Last question before we part. What do you want to tell everyone about Ernd, or how can we help you in Canada, or what's your kind of message? Because we'd love to support you from here if there's anything we could do. Or
thanks.
People listen to this podcast from all around, but what's your kind of wish or goal? Or like I say every night to my son, what's your rose and thorn? What's your rose?
Well, I tell you what, first of all, just come on the website. It's ernd.co.uk and just sign up and just check out what we're doing and stay connected to it, or follow us on Instagram. And we really hope that as soon as we get this little bit of tech together, that we can expand really fast. And at that point, we're going to let everybody know when we're landing in each territory. But then we want to know what your favorite cause is, what needs help. Does your school need help? Does your food bank need help? Does the hospital need help? Tell us. And then our role is to go and find the brands and go, right, we've got an idea for you, let's go. But the more we know, the more we can help or put it all together. So yeah, don't wait until we get to Canada. Sign up now or follow us on Instagram and we'll get there as quick as we can.
I love it. Thanks for the chat, Lauren, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Give a big hug to your little guy, and we'll be
too.
watching you on Instagram and LinkedIn and all the fabulous places. I only wish you success, and I think this is much needed and couldn't be led by a better human. So congrats.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope to see you in London soon.
Yes, hopefully soon.